Dr. Mindy here, and on this video, all my perimenopausal women, I want to answer your fasting questions. I know I've done it in many different videos. I do it a ton in this book, but I want to make it very concise and easy for you to understand on this video. So those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. You have joined a worldwide fasting conversation that's happening here on this channel. So if you're new, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and dive into all the videos I have here. But right now I'm reading and highlighting from my new book called Fast Like a Girl that will be out at the end of December, so you can pre-order it now. And I'm just excited to be having this conversation with you.
Pioneer in the fasting
Do a long fast one day, your blood sugar going up and down. We're in it together. Okay, perimenopausal women. Gosh, you've been on my heart. Like, I keep thinking of you because I've been on all of these podcast interviews talking about the principles in the book. And I want to make sure that you really understand how to use this book. You are, of all the hormonal spectrums, you are the hardest for me to give you a very clear answer, because the whole way in which we move through perimenopause is in very non-linear way. So, for example, some of you will have normal cycles until 48, and then all of a sudden your period will just stop. Others of you are going to start having abnormal cycles at 35, and abnormal might be you don't get a cycle for every 60 or 90 days. So there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of differences when we say perimenopause. So what I wanted to do on this video is really try to simplify it for you so that when you get the book in your hand, you have a very clear idea of what you should be doing. Here we go. What is perimenopause? So perimenopause is the time when your hormones start to decline. And it usually happens around 40, although it is happening earlier and earlier. We're seeing more people going into perimenopause at 35. And what's happening in those years is that numbers of eggs in your ovaries are winding down, so there's less sex hormone production. And that means that you're going to have some times where estrogen is going to be really high and estrogen is going to be really low. So going into perimenopause means you go on this estrogen roller coaster, high one day, low one day. The other thing that it means is that progesterone is going to start to decline. And pretty much about 40, it just makes a steady decline. It doesn't do the hormone roller coaster. And the challenge is that estrogen and progesterone are like sisters. I wrote about this in the book. I keep mentioning this. I think it's such a good way to look at these two hormones. They're sisters. They may have the same family name, sex hormone, but they operate vastly different, just like sisters might. So when we look at estrogen going up and down and progesterone declining, progesterone keeps estrogen in check. So if progesterone's declining and estrogen's going wild during those perimenopausal years, this makes it a very unique physical and mental time for us. I feel you. I've been you. So I know what you're going through. So here's the fasting solution. For starters, in the book, and this is for all women who are cycling, by the way, I have a chapter called The Fasting Cycle, and we haven't really mapped this out. You're actually seeing it for the first time here, and we will be teaching from this on my social media. We'll be teaching in the academy once the book comes out. So when you get the book, go look at the fasting cycle. And basically what I've done in the fasting cycle is I've given new names to the menstrual cycle, names that we could actually understand, like the power phase, manifestation phase, and nurture phase. When you go to this fasting cycle, what I want you to do is I want you to follow it according to the cycle you have now. So let me give you an explanation. If you're a perimenopausal woman, day one, well, all women, day one, when we start our period and we need to actually use feminine care products, that's day one of your cycle, when blood is coming. So what's confusing for the perimenopausal woman is a lot of times we spot. And so it's hard to know, did I start? Did I not start? I'll address that in a moment. But from day 1 to day 10 of our cycle, we are starting to build estrogen. So the deeper we get into perimenopause, the more we actually need to use this part of our cycle to fast a little longer. Estrogen does really well with longer fast, does really well with keto, does really well with even hardcore cardio exercise. Estrogen can really weather those kind of moments and actually does well with it. Estrogen is funny, like estrogen doesn't do necessarily well with excess. Like we see a lot of estrogen dominance when we're putting too many toxins in our face, like beauty products, and we're eating too many toxins. But the estrogen you want to create as a perimenopausal woman responds really well to fasting, and you're going to want to do that in somewhere between day 1 to day 10 of your cycle. Now on day 11, you move into ovulation. In the new book, I call that the manifestation phase. This is where estrogen's at her peak, testosterone's at her peak, and you have a little bit of progesterone. It's all explained in the fasting cycle chapter with the tool. So during this time, we want to bring fast down to about 15 hours. You don't want to go more than 15 hours because you have a little bit of progesterone. And as you'll see here in a moment, you don't want to fast a lot when progesterone's on the scene. So let's keep it a little bit lower, around 15 hours from day 11 to day 15. I call this the manifestation phase. Then we come out of that manifestation phase, you're going to go maybe into like there's a little 4-day period where I call it another power phase, where you're at day 16 to day 19. You can throw some longer fasts at it. This is where you're going to have more of a dip in hormones. So you can do some longer fasts there, and I recommend it for the perimenopausal woman. And then around day 20, your progesterone's coming in a very big way. And when progesterone comes in a very big way, we don't want to fast a lot. And this is incredibly important for the perimenopausal woman because remember, progesterone's starting to go down. So we want to make sure that when you get to that day 20 of your cycle, you step out of fasting. You also have to remember you need to raise glucose a little bit because your body needs glucose to make progesterone. You also need chocolate. Literally, because chocolate has magnesium in it, and I'm giving you permission to eat chocolate during that time so you can upregulate magnesium to make progesterone. Just saying. My favorite is Hue. We'll put links in here. No lie. So there's a reason we crave carbs. There's a reason we're more hungry. There's a reason we want chocolate during that time because that's what progesterone is wanting us to do. So that's the fasting cycle in general, but for the perimenopausal woman, what happens when she goes into that progesterone building time where she's not fasting, she's eating all the chocolate, she's raised her glucose, and maybe 10 days have gone by and there's still no period? I mean, that's really common, right? So what we have to do, and this is very nuanced, women, and I want you to gather this, is you have to get to know your hormones. Because you don't have a cycle that you're necessarily going to be flowing with. So you're going to need to know some of the characteristics of your hormones. And let me give you some of those characteristics. So estrogen, you know you need more estrogen for the perimenopausal women when you start really struggling with a lot of mental cognition. Like you can't seem to hold on to information, you can't put in as many long days at work or even just in life. You also know when you go searching for words, when you're mentally struggling. We also know that we need more estrogen in those perimenopausal years when our skin gets really dry and our mucosal membranes get really dry. Our nose, the vaginal area, when dryness happens, that's the need for more of this good estrogen. The other time that we know we need more estrogen is when our hair starts to get that hormonal fuzz. Like that, my friend Dr. Anna Kabeka calls it hormonal hair, and I agree. It gets that kind of fuzzy look, and whenever my hair gets like that, my brain goes, okay, I need more estrogen. I'm going to need to make sure that I fast a little more. I go into a little more keto. So that's how we would know we need estrogen. You know you need progesterone when you start to wake up in the morning and maybe you can normally fast and you're really good with fasting, but all of a sudden you can't fast. You're famished. This happens to me at 53 a lot, where all of a sudden I'll wake up and it'll be like 9 in the morning. I'm like, I gotta eat. That is not usual for me. I usually like to break my fast around 10. So if all of a sudden you're getting really hungry, that might be progesterone like tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, I need you to step out of keto. I need you to step out of fasting so that you can start to build progesterone. This is the crazy thing about estrogen and progesterone is progesterone needs glucose to be high, estrogen needs glucose to be low. So we've got to learn to read those clues. The last one I want to comment on is testosterone, and testosterone is important for women as well. We actually have more testosterone than men, believe it or not. It's just that men are getting testosterone every 15 minutes. So you know you need more testosterone when motivation goes down, drive, you don't want to work out anymore, libido's gone. Those are signs of testosterone needs. And the rules for fasting for testosterone for women, the research shows that we do well with fasting. Usually a shorter fast, 13 to 15 hours is perfect for testosterone. But we also have to focus on our microbiome. So you'll see in the new book, I actually put something new that I haven't really taught anywhere else. And that's that I'm encouraging perimenopausal women, especially when you get into that ovulation window, when you, what I call manifestation phase, I don't want you in keto. I want you into a little more fruits and vegetables, because that feeds your microbiome and helps you break down not just testosterone, but the other two hormones. So there's a 30-day reset in here for everyone, but my perimenopausal women, what you would do is go through it all 30 days. And if your cycle still hasn't shown up, start over again on day 1, and you'll go through it again. And that's where, if you want to start in that second 30 days, you may have to course correct according to these symptoms that show up. I can tell you what I started to do in the back half of my 40s is I just read the cues. If all of a sudden I started spotting, I was like more progesterone. If all of a sudden my skin was really dry, I was like more estrogen. When my brain wasn't focused, more estrogen. When I got more anxious and was struggling to sleep, I was like more progesterone. So I learned to pull these tools out in different rhythms according to what my hormonal needs were. And really, all women, we should be learning this language of our hormones. So as always, I really hope that helps. I'm doing something really cool in celebration of the book. I'm doing something really cool. I have gathered together some of the coolest women that I've met in the last year. Leanne Rimes, Danica Patrick, and Elle McPherson. And I asked, what's really cool is I went to each one of these women. I have been, and Leanne and Danica have been public about their work with me, and I have personally been working with them and teaching them what you're going to learn in the book. Leanne wrote the foreword, but what I've gotten to know about these women as I've interacted with the three of them is that we can look at them and see a celebrity. We can look at them and see a beautiful face, but they are women that are on a mission to keep their health not only at their best, but to keep finding their authentic self and always show up in their truest nature. So I asked all three of them if they would come and join me in a conversation on what it's like as women to take the masks that we wear off. Because these three women, we can easily look at Leanne and see a Grammy Award winning singer, a songwriter. She's incredible. If you've ever seen her live, you know how incredible she is. Danica, we can see this accomplished athlete that was able to do amazing things with race car driving, where no woman has ever gone before. Unbelievable. And we can look at Elle McPherson and see the supermodel and go, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And we project things onto these women, just like we get stuff projected onto us and we project onto other women. But if we take those masks off, underneath there is really just an authentic human. And I want to talk to these women and so that you can see their authenticity, you can see their heart, and you can see the journey that they had to taking their masks off. And hopefully you'll learn in their stories, you'll find some inspiration for yourself. So doing that webinar December 20th, the only requirement to get into it is a purchase of the book. You can find out all the details on fastlikeagirl.com. But as always, I hope that helps, and tell your story. By the way, I have a great story I gotta tell you. I almost forgot. Oh my gosh. You guys leave me the best stories. So I wanted to make sure that I tell this story. So this is from Stacy Bauman. She left it 4 weeks ago. I love this. She started doing the fasting cycle and she was doing the nurture phase. The nurture phase is when progesterone comes in, and she was extremely tearful and cried a lot. Yep. That's progesterone. She'll make you kind of weepy. So you were bringing progesterone in, Stacy. I love it. But she did lose her mom in March, and she was dealing with some stuff. And when she gets her period, her cycle wasn't as heavy and the cramps weren't as bad. She started to feel better. And as she synced up, she goes on to say that as she synced up more and more, using the fasting cycle as a tool, that her periods got easier and easier. She's 46 and she still has a really regular 33-day cycle, which is awesome. That's what we want. We really want you to go into that full-blown menopause somewhere between 52 and 55, because that's the healthiest for your brain and the healthiest for your heart. So, Stacy, thank you for sharing your story. As always, I hope that helps.